Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty show. And today we're going to give you a little recap of the week 2 NFL season and a preview of our week 3 coming up. And what a week 2 it was, right? I mean, Tampa went into Detroit somehow and pulled out that victory with 3 of the starters down on defense. Just eked it out. A lot of heart on that Bucs D showing up at the end there. Jared Goff just not able to get it finished. I wouldn't be worried about the Detroit offense there, but just shout out to my boys in Tampa for a great defensive effort and squeezing that one out against the Lions. We had, let's go back. I mean, a week ago today, we all witnessed Tua go down to a concussion. And a lot of us thought that maybe it might be the end for Tua. And what does that mean then for Tyreek or Jalen Waddle? And what are we supposed to do if we had Tua on our dynasty rosters? And there were just tons of injuries this last week. They just want to, rather than do a week to weekly game recap and then a waiver wire show after what happened this last week and so many injuries, so many terrible offenses out there in the NFL right now. I just wanted to give more of a philosophical look at what's going on actually out there in the NFL to try and help you with your teams, analyze your teams, and try and become the best dynasty player that you can out there. So rather than telling you, hey, spend a bunch of money on Andy Dalton because he's taking over for a bench Bryce Young, I mean, if you needed that kind of advice, I don't think you're the right kind of person to be watching my type of show, because that should be something that is completely obvious. All right. If you were hurt at quarterback, go out there and pick up Andy Dalton. In a super flex league, he can be a low end quarterback too. I mean, hell, look at what Derek Carr is doing down there in New Orleans, blowing everybody's minds right now. Right. So that kind of advice, I didn't feel was really helpful. Okay. Also to sit here and advise you on which Kansas City running back to now pick up with the Isaiah Pacheco injury, that's just a crapshoot as well. I mean, they went out and even brought Kareem Hunt back, for crying out loud. So, I mean, that's going to be a 3-headed monster. It really just comes down to who ends up getting lucky and gets the touches inside the 5. And honestly, it's probably just going to be, Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy getting more work. We all know Rashee Rice is blowing up and getting tons of work. So his will probably be the same, but I would just really look at it as an opportunity for Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce to step it up. Maybe Mahomes gets back up there in yardage. I mean, across the board, where is he ranked at quarterback right now? He's in the teens. Okay. He's definitely not top 10 right now. So there's plenty of room for improvement there from Mahomes. And for you Kelce owners out there and Xavier Worthy owners out there, it's time to get a little excited. Okay. I mean, speaking of Travis Kelce, I mean, just the tight end landscape in general has been terrible so far this year. I mean, Sam Laporta, he got stuffed by the Buccaneers defense. Mark Andrews has gone off to a slow start with Isaiah Likely blowing up week 1. Dalton Kincaid, slow start as well. I mean, it looked like Buffalo was going to come out firing to him all day. They opened the game up with a few targets to him, and then it just, as the game script went, and they didn't need to throw it in the second half, so went Dalton Kincaid's prospects for the week. What I'm getting at ultimately is it's only week 2. And I know we said this after week 1, but it is early in the season. Don't panic, okay? Matt and I will be doing a buy and hold show later on today. And specifically, I'm not putting sells in there. And that's because the only reason you should really be unloading guys right now is if you know you're in a complete rebuild, okay? Or if you know you can get a solid return for a down tier. Like if you were wanting to down tier from, say, Tyreek Hill now to sort of insulate the Tua injury, right? And you go one tier down, like you get a DJ Moore and a first or something like that, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that because Tyreek, once Tua does come back, and he is going to come back in probably a month, let's say, maybe I would give the timetable 3 to 6 weeks is what I'm looking at. But once he does come back, and if he is back to normal mind and good health, he should resume the circus act with Tyreek Hill. So I don't want to panic sell there. Same with Jalen Waddle, right? Jalen Waddle was someone who everybody freaked out, myself included, with the Tua injury that looked to be career ending possibly. I was like, Jalen Waddle screwed, right? But at the same time, like, what were you going to get for him? I mean, everybody out there knew that Tua got hurt. It wasn't like you were going to sneak one by somebody, all right? And that's not what I'm trying to preach here. So what I am trying to tell you, though, is do not panic sell your guys. And that goes for all year long, but especially right now, if you're a middling team, there's no reason to think that you can't step it up and move up to the elite in your particular leagues. So, because some of the teams that may be starting out at 2-0 or 4-0, if you run a median game in your league, you could look at their rosters and they probably are dealing with some of the same issues that you are. There's so many injuries right now in the NFL. I mean, look, just last week we had Tua, Cooper Kupp injury, Deebo Samuel's calf, Isaiah Pacheco's leg, Bryce Young getting benched. Okay, those are just a few of the injuries that occurred over this last weekend. And that's not to mention the other minor injuries, like Amon-Ra, who's going to be questionable this week. He had a knee thing. There's just across, especially the top of the board, like our first 2-3 round picks this year. You go back and they didn't even bring up McCaffrey yet, but you go back and look and you'll see that just about a third of the picks that we took in the first 3 rounds have been hurt already. Puka. So now the Rams are looking at Puka and Kupp being out for at least the next 3 weeks with Kupp. They did say yesterday, they came out and said that he would not be going on to IR. See, this is another reason why I didn't want to do that show on Monday night, especially, is when I was looking to do it. A lot of these injuries, they were not definitive yet. So if you went out there and just blew a ton on, say, Demarcus Robinson, well, you probably ended up overpaying for it. Now, if you only spent like 20% of your fab on him, I wouldn't say that's bad as a stopgap Band-Aid for Cooper Kupp for the next 3 weeks. That would be all right in my mind. But for instance, in a 16-man league that I'm in, Kareem Hunt was announced that he was visiting the Chiefs right after the Pacheco injury. So somebody went out and spent $63 of the $100 in fab on Kareem Hunt. And I saw that Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, and I was like, I put $3 on him. So, because whether it's Kareem Hunt or Carson Steele or Samaje Perine, which would be my bet, we have no idea which one of those 3 is actually going to get the major value touches, which would be the touches inside the 5, inside the 10 for the Chiefs offense. We have no idea right now. They may split them all up for all we know. I mean, those 3 guys may be looking at a combined 20 to 25 touches, meaning each of them gets 7 or 8 or 9 touches. And you're looking at 3 dudes combining for 21 fantasy points, and they each get 7 or 8. Maybe one week Steele gets 10. Next week Kareem Hunt gets the 10. But I didn't feel confident enough to tell you out there that you should be going out and spending more on this guy or more on that guy. Now, the advice I could say is it's not a bad idea to own a piece of them cheaply. Getting 1 out of the 3 options on the bottom of your bench, that's totally fine. Wasting the majority of your fab for the season on one of these dudes, not a smart decision. So that's how I look at the Chiefs backfield as well as the Rams receiver room right now. Sure, Jamarcus Robinson is the veteran of the room or has the most tenure in that offense right now, but you still have Tyler Johnson, you have the rookie Whittington, and then you have Tutu Atwell hanging out there as well. And who knows, Atwell might be the guy coming underneath now, getting a lot of work. Now, he's not built like Cooper Kupp, but he definitely could see an increased volume there in LA. So what I do want to do, though, is also take a look at the Monday night game. And for 58 minutes, Kirk Cousins looked like absolute trash, right? Then he goes back into 2-minute mode and just straight out of muscle memory fires boom, 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 touchdown. And the Falcons win. And it was like the Kirk Cousins that the Falcons had paid for. They got their reward right there. And so we'll see if Cousins continues. It's very enlightening for all of us Drake London / Kyle Pitts owners to see that from Kirk. And hopefully the Rams staff can work with Kirk and see some of the things that did work there in the 2-minute drill. They're obviously not going to run the 2-minute drill the whole game, but they might run some variation of that. There's some variation of those plays or hurry up offense. Who knows what we'll see from the Falcons coming into week 3 and their matchup with who are they playing? The Falcons get that's right. They get the Chiefs on Sunday night. So that should be interesting. Hopefully the refs don't get in the way, but that's a pretty blind hope in my opinion. Of course, the highlighted game this past weekend was the Chiefs Bengals. And I think we've just come so exhausted of this issue with the refs and the Chiefs games that I think you almost have to just expect it, because some of the things that happen with these calls, they are legit, right? I mean, the defensive back did get there early on Rashee Rice. Okay. But as I've told many of my friends afterwards, and those who I was texting during the game, that if it was Jamar Chase going up for that pass, damn well they wouldn't have called the interference on the Chiefs defensive back or dropped the flag on the lineman who grabbed the face mask of the defensive lineman from the Bengals on that same play. All right. It should have been an offsetting penalty. Down goes over. But it didn't. And what are we going to expect going forward? Are we going to all of a sudden expect that the refs aren't going to favor the Chiefs a little? I would think that would be silly. Honestly, you have to just kind of expect it. And to be fair, history is going to repeat itself. The Chiefs aren't going to win 3 in a row. It's just, the NFL is too tough. Somebody like the Bengals or another team in the AFC is going to knock them off before they even get to the Super Bowl. That's my hope. All right. But I digress. let's get back into some action of those who did well this last weekend. And I'm going to give kudos out to the Texans. They beat down the Bears, and they, with the relentless pressure from Will Anderson on the outside, just kept getting to Caleb Williams. I think that Caleb, I've been impressed so far, actually, with his demeanor on the field, and I think he has it. It's just going to take a little time to adjust to the program, work out, play calls that he can change at the line, this and that. I don't know that he's quite ready for all of that, but as long as the Bears are ready to invest in some offensive linemen going forward, I think that would be the best way to help Caleb at this time. We had an ugly Denver-Pittsburgh game, then a couple of games I definitely want to touch on. First of all, the New Orleans Saints going into Dallas in Big D, just destroying the Cowboys 44-19, something that none of us expected. Many of us probably lost our survivor pool pick on that one. And, what can I say? Derek Carr has taken the Clint Kubiak offensive scheme and played it perfectly first 2 weeks of the season. Now, can we expect that to continue going forward? Now, it's easy to say, oh, please, they're all cells, right? Sure, it's easy to say that because nobody expected Rashid Shaheed to catch 2 60-plus yard bombs in the first 2 weeks. Now, we all expected him to catch long passes. We do know Shaheed's game. The key is has Rashid Shaheed improved himself as a wide receiver as a whole? Like, what kind of work are they actually using him for on the offense? I think that Rashid Shaheed is becoming more than just a one-trick pony, all right? Clint Kubiak has used him as a chess piece, all right? Alvin Kamara explained after the game how one of the touchdowns was created simply by the motion that Shaheed did before the snap. And so a lot of these teams using motion before the snap, these are the innovators in the game. These are the teams that are being successful so far this year offensively. And so it's few and far between because honestly, I've seen a lot of trash on offense so far, and it goes to show in the numbers. Somebody pointed out to me how there's only been 68 touchdown passes so far in the first 2 weeks of this NFL season. Last year and the year before, it was 86 and 88 touchdown passes. The 4 years prior, so years 2021 back to 2018, there were over 100 touchdown passes in the first 2 weeks of each of those seasons. So you can see we've dropped about 30% from that. And so what is it going to look like going forward? Well, part of it has to do with the preseason. Okay. And Sean McVay's style has definitely caught on to the rest of the league. Let's see, Tampa's taken one of their offensive coordinators. The Falcons have that. And his philosophy, Minnesota has, Kevin O'Connell, he was from under the McVay tree. And so the philosophy as a whole has taken notice amongst the NFL teams. And so what we're seeing is none of the starters playing at all in the preseason because that's what McVay does. Now, sure, it prevents injury, so to speak, to your starters. It prevents the catastrophic injury from occurring on the field. But has it really helped the Rams? No. I mean, look, Puka's out, Cooper Kupp's out. Their offensive line is in shambles. Just their offensive line right now in LA, their PFF grade, the worst team last season was the New York Giants with a PFF grade of 43 out of 100 for the whole season. 43. That was the worst. Right now, through 2 weeks, the Rams offensive line is grading at a 29. Okay. So again, I know I wasn't high on Kyren Williams at the beginning of the season, but if you didn't get out on him before the season started, now is not the time to just panic sell on him. Sean McVay actually obviously has shown that Kyren is going to be the guy unless he gets hurt. And so all of us hoping for Blake Corum to put up the big numbers are just going to have to wait for a big Kyren Williams injury. And just because the Rams offensive line has looked terrible in 2 games doesn't mean it's going to continue for the rest of the season. They're going to make some improvements. McVay will make some adjustments. He's not an idiot. All right. He's going to make adjustments, get the Rams back on track. They have started off terribly. But I mean, they were in it with the Rams. They got blown out now by Arizona, but that has something more to do with, I think, Kyler Murray and him finally finding Marv Harrison after 1 week of not hitting him. I mean, let's look at that. I mean, look at the rookie wide receiver explosion this last week with the top 2 guys just being monsters. I mean, Marv could have quit after quarter 1 because, well, he didn't get any stats after quarter 1, but 4 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Yeah, sign me up for some of that. And then Malik Neighbors with an over 60%. That's 6-0. He had a 63% target share. That's right, 18 targets on just 28 Daniel Jones pass attempts. And he got to 10 catches with that. Just a monster day for Malik Neighbors. Exactly what we were hoping for after a sort of ugly week 1 there. We had the Packers Colts yuck it out. The Packers did what they had to do without Jordan Love and just ran the ball some more. I thought Josh Jacobs might get 50 carries as it was looking in the first half. He did end up the day with 30 carries for 150 yards. So if you want, go out and try and acquire him. It would be probably tough to do so for cheap. Whoever owns him is going to just reap the benefits while Jordan Love is out. But they're not always going to be playing the Colts defense either. This week they get the Titans defense, a little bit better than the Colts run D, at least. We've seen the Colts now get smashed by Joe Mixon in week 1 and now Josh Jacobs in week 2. So expect, I forget who the Colts are playing this week. Let's see. The Colts get the Bears. So wheels up for DeAndre Swift or Khalil Herbert or whoever decides to run the ball there in Chicago. But yeah, so the Cardinals looked awesome. We got exactly what we were looking for from Kyler Murray. All that offseason hype about him landing Marvin Harrison through the draft, having Trey McBride as a safety blanket. It all came through in week 2 for the Cardinals. Now they get this week 3 matchup will be against the Detroit Lions. And that will be a different animal because I am telling you from watching the Detroit Tampa game very closely, obviously. Let me tell you, Aiden Hutchinson is a freaking monster. Okay. 4.5 sacks in that game. And that wasn't because our offensive line in Tampa is just terrible. All right. We have a decent offensive line and they found the weak spot at right tackle versus left tackle. And they lined up Hutchinson against him all day long. We even tried putting Wirfs over there a couple of times, but instead we decided to start running different plays where we could get away from Hutchinson. And the Bucs got 20 points out of it, and that's all they needed. They eked it out. But what I did see from that was that the Detroit Lions offensive line is dominant, no sacks by Tampa, and that Aiden Hutchinson probably is taking over the mantle from TJ Watt as the next monster defensive end. So TJ Watt still is awesome though. Helped hold the Broncos to just 6 points. But back to the Saints. So I mentioned Rashid Shaheed, And is he somebody that you actually go and buy high on? Okay. I've got in that 16-man league, I've got somebody looking for a wide receiver, and I'm stacked at wide receiver. However, Debo is out now, so I don't really want to trade Calvin Ridley, but I would entertain it if he's willing to throw me Rashid Shaheed in the deal. I need a running back, so I'm maybe going after J.K. Dobbins. The thing that makes me leery about J.K. Dobbins, who had another monster game as well, $130 and a touchdown, 20 points. The thing that makes me leery about J.K. Dobbins is the schedule coming up here for the Chargers. This week they get the Steelers D, then they have the Chiefs D, and then they're on a bye. So these next 3 weeks, I don't know how confident you can be plugging J.K. Dobbins right into that lineup. Yes, he's going to get the work. The Chargers are definitely going to try and make the run game work against both of these opponents, the Steelers and the Chiefs. But will it last? I mean, will it continue through the third and fourth quarters in that game where J.K. Dobbins can roll up an extra 50, 60 yards on top of whatever he gets in the first half? Or will the Chargers be trailing in these games? Now, the Chargers-Steelers game, that could be very ugly, and I could see them pounding the ball the whole game. Because I don't know. That game is whoever gets first to 10 points is probably going to win. But the Chiefs, on the other hand, the Chiefs know how to – the Chiefs aren't exactly a first-half team. Sometimes they light it up in the first quarter, but it's pretty rare. Honestly, they're a second-half team, and their defense stiffens up. Steve Spagnuolo makes some good adjustments at halftime. And so in that matchup, J.K. Dobbins, I don't trust as much. And so I am not buying high on J.K. Dobbins as of now in that particular league. But we'll see. It could change. I mean, obviously, if Dobbins dominates the Steelers, then his value is going to even rise even more. So I don't know. I'm in a rock and a hard place in that one, but I'll find a way through it. Looking through some of these other, let's see. I just want to make sure I didn't forget anybody that I wanted to talk about in week 2. Oh, yes. Let's finish off week 2 on Bryce Young. So Bryce Young obviously wasn't looking great, and they decided to bench him after his performance on Sunday. They benched him right away on Monday for the 37-year-old Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. And what does Dalton actually bring to the table for the Panthers? I know that some of us went out there, myself included, and bought in on Deontay Johnson and figured that Chuba Hubbard would be a decent filler running back on our team. And none of that has really come to fruition so far. Chuba did get some targets this week after getting 0 targets in a blowout against the Saints week 1, which made no sense. And so Andy Dalton does bring to the table the fact that he likes to dump it off. He was ranked 3rd and 6th his last 2 seasons that he was a full-time starter in dump-offs to running backs. And so you can look for Chuba to get some more action there. If you're in a hard place at running back, maybe you had Pacheco, maybe you had McCaffrey, or some other starter who's struggling, maybe Chuba Hubbard will be a little bit better going forward. I'm not going to say that Dalton's going to come in and light up the world, but he couldn't do much worse than Bryce Young. So for Deontay Johnson, I think this will help him as well. Again, a situation where it can't really be much worse. So I don't know. I thought that of Bryce Young. I wasn't going out and buying him everywhere this offseason. I was lucky to get out of him during last season when I saw how poorly he had started. So again, if you own Bryce Young, if you can still get a second for him, go ahead and do that. But again, this isn't a real great window here to sell many players. It's still too early in the season. These teams are still getting acclimated to each other and their new offensive coordinators, new offenses, new teammates. So, I would give it through September if your guys are struggling. All right. Just trying to think of another. Oh, Chris Olave, right? He hasn't done a whole lot. He was a half yard short of a touchdown, and we'd be having a totally different conversation about Olave if he had just gotten into the end zone there. Same with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, he came a half yard short of a touchdown on his one catch. Also on the play before the toss to Rashee Rice, Kelce caught it at midfield and turned around, took off, and gained an extra 20 yards. So it was like a 35-yard completion that got called back on that one. Somebody else, George Pickens, for instance, he has just a monster Trinity score, 4 wide receivers, and he is the guy there in Pittsburgh. He had over 100 yards brought back on penalties on Sunday. And so just if you want, go ahead and go out and buy George Pickens. I'm not afraid to down tier to him. Even go from you could probably do Waddle and get Pickens plus maybe something. Maybe it's hard to do Waddle right now. But you get what I'm saying. Ultimately, George Pickens still will be fine, even though it's an Arthur Smith offense. He's getting the targets. You're looking at somebody who, again, probably should do better than what Drake London did the last season. Okay, between Justin Fields and maybe if Russell Wilson ends up coming back and starting, I think they both have more talent with their arms than Desmond Ridder did. All right. Before we finish it off, how about the Raiders, right? Coming back from down 23 to 6 and getting the game tied up and winning it in overtime in Baltimore is quite impressive as a team. Now, fantasy-wise, Zamir White, get what you can for, because I've been saying all offseason that he was not going to be the guy. But offensively, Devontae Adams with the monster catch, big 9 for 120 and a touchdown. But Brock Bowers is the tight end 1 in Dynasty. I'm saying it right now, and it's going to be that way for probably many years. So Brock Bowers is somebody that I did like. I did get him in a couple of rookie drafts, but he's shown right now that he should have been drafted in the top 5 or 6, not falling past him versus Rome Odunze. I know that Rome has a rookie quarterback, so I'll give him a little slack, but Bowers is showing right out of the gate. He has Gardner Minshew at quarterback, nothing special there. And he's back-to-back weeks. He was 9 for 98 this past week. And before that, he was 8 for 58. So he is getting the targets, he was 6 for 58 the week before. He had 8 targets. So 17 targets so far through 2 weeks for Brock Bowers, monster. And so that is my recap of week 2. Week 3, we've got some great matchups, including the New England Patriots traveling to Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets in what should be a nice, exciting AFC East brawl tonight. So look into that. Be sure to tune in for Matt and I later when we do our buy, sell, hold show. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe so that show will come right to you. And you can comment, leave your questions in the chat. You can always question me at buymeacoffee.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show, or check us out on our Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. I got my 2025 rookie rankings out. So check those out, especially if you're trading for those 2025 firsts right now. You want to know what guys you're going to be looking at, what guys you should tune in to watch on Saturdays. and get ready for them to hit the NFL next season. Other than that, I am out.